Picture a dinner in Austin. Someone is venting about housing prices. Someone else makes a crack about how the government moves at a glacial pace. Everyone's nodding, yup. The venting, prime time. But nothing changes. That question is why today matters. How do we enact change more quickly? And how do we ensure change continues even after we're gone? Austin Community Foundation isn't just another nonprofit. They are a huge lever we have in this city for turning good intentions into real, organized impact. And if you've lived here for a while, you've probably heard their name. We've talked about them in past episodes, especially with Courtney. But many people don't really understand what they do, including me. But like me, I hope you get a lot out of the upcoming conversation. One part that stuck with me is legacy, and who does not think about legacy, that impact that we make when we're gone. Most giving can be often a one-time thing. You donate, it's gone, and you hope it helped. But ACF talks about ways impact can keep working, sometimes without you constantly feeding it. Things like how even a low-interest loan can help unlock affordable housing, or how the return on invested dollars can be used to support the community over and over and over again while the original amount stays intact. It made me think about my kids, their children, and then this bigger question. What if the legacy you leave doesn't stop with your family? I'm Stephanie Dyer. First, I'm joined with my neighbor and friend, Courtney Dickey. And then we're talking with Meagan Longley, the Chief Impact Officer at Austin Community Foundation. We're here to help Central Texans learn how to give back and show up for your community. Let's get into it. Welcome, Courtney.
Hi, Stephanie.
Okay, the inherited wallet and how the great wealth transfer will reshape giving.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
Yeah, there's been two topics that we've discussed in the past that kind of bring these together. We've talked about women in giving.
Yes.
And how women, the data says they volunteer more and they give more money than men.
Yes. And they give more money to organizations that they also volunteer for. Yes.
Oh, and that goes with our volunteerism.
Yes.
Anyway, they all intersect, all these topics. And so we talked about that. And one sub-bullet of that was that they will be receiving more wealth through inheritance and through their careers women have ever seen before. So that will reshape contributions towards nonprofits.
Yes.
The second topic that we've talked about is getting younger people involved and how the different generations, we kind of went into each generation and how they view giving and how the younger generation does more of activism.
Yes, very much so.
And social impact.
Yes.
Yeah. So a few stats real quick. Estimates suggest that the U.S. will pass about $124 trillion. I can't fathom what that means. $124 trillion from older generations, the baby boomers and the silent generation, to younger heirs and charities by 2048.
Okay. I know, right? So we've got 23 years?
Yeah. So my guess is this was probably a survey that was taken 2 years ago, and it was probably looking 25 years ahead. Yeah. Okay. Millennials alone. You're a millennial.
I'm a geriatric millennial.
Oh, you're at the very top.
I'm at the very top. 1982, baby.
Oh, okay.
I know.
I'm in the middle.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, 1989.
You're a firm millennial.
Taylor Swift concert.
1989. You and Taylor.
Baby. Yeah.
You have that in common.
Yes, we do. That and a little bit of feminism.
That's
so
right.
I don't even listen to her music that much. Actually, you know what? She had a really good song on her last album. I enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
Ophelia. Yeah, that was
Life
good.
of a Showgirl.
Yes. Okay, millennials alone will inherit about $46 trillion over the next 25 years. That just sounds like a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of wealth.
But this is the thing that will go specifically, they estimate, to charity, is in those same 25 years, 11 to 12 trillion will transfer to charities, which is a lot.
Yes, it is.
That feels like a high percentage.
Very much so.
Going back to our topic about the gender gap in philanthropy, 55% of Americans believe that the future of philanthropy will be led by women making the majority of monetary donations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, right? Given the historical nature of giving from women, assuming they're going to inherit more wealth, we're going to actually see the giving increase. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Okay, and real quick, just a couple more things. So one is The report, The Next Generation of Philanthropy, they found that millennials and Gen Z donors prioritize issues rather than organizations. So the giving might change. I don't know what that really looks like, but they want to be change makers and use online tools and social media in their giving. So really, I think this is an opportunity for nonprofits to think about how do they stand out.
Agreed. Sounds like they're more organization agnostic. So they're not going to tie themselves to an organization. They're going to be, I don't care who you are. I don't care what your name is. I don't care. But how are you making the world a better place? Or how are you attacking climate change or women's reproductive rights or whatever the issue is that they're passionate about? That's really interesting. So yeah, to your point, how do nonprofits adjust? Knowing that this is coming in the next 25 years, how are you marketing more towards women? You better be thinking about that. And if this next generation is more focused on issues, how are you making sure that is what's standing out in your marketing and that you are telling the stories? We were talking about storytelling beforehand and that you're speaking directly to them on, we know you care about this. And by giving to us, this is how we're going to address that. I think messaging will be super important.
I agree. And let's just play a fun game.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I love games.
So, Courtney.
Oh, gosh.
You have a long lost cousin that unfortunately passes away.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah. And you find out you got $5 million.
Ah, yes. Amazing.
Yeah. Not amazing about your cousin.
No, but I didn't have an attachment.
Yeah.
Is that terrible?
So true.
But yes.
And he was like 90-something years old.
Okay. It was time.
It was time.
It was time.
For this exercise.
Yes.
Okay. How are you allocating it?
Oh my gosh. How much, like, you want like percentiles?
Yeah. Just give me some like, okay, this is going to into my family and my future, maybe a vacation home.
Yes.
This is what I believe. Do you believe in this like kind of tithing, 10%? And is that going locally? Is that going, tell me
It's a great question. If I were to be fortunate, I'm thinking 15 to 20% to nonprofits, only because I serve on boards. I see the needs every day. That's really important to our family. I'd start my DAF. I don't have a DAF yet, so that would be my first thing to do in order to contribute.
Your donor advised fund is up and running.
Yes. I keep saying like the next startup that we sell.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a founder, but I'm just a chief legal officer.
And then just throw it in there.
Yes,
again,
just throw it in there. It's
the tax strategy for future years just makes sense.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah,
and
I love it.
The conversation that we had with Piper, which is these aren't just millionaires. Like these are everyday people who are choosing to take advantage of the tax benefits, and it's actually easier for the nonprofits. So anyway, I would open my DAF, and I'm thinking 15 to 20% to local organizations in Austin, to our schools, to our school foundation, which is, again, filling the gap due to Robin Hood or recapture. And then it would be, I want to make sure my kids' educations are paid for. I don't want to have to deal with that. I would love to pay off my house, get rid of some
worries.
debt. Yes. And then just have a good little nest egg that we can retire. I'd like to retire one day, Steph. These are things that people dream of. First off, to have a home and to retire. And so I would feel very fortunate to have money to also give to our community that I live in, that I want to love and take care of and make sure it's a good community for the next generation.
You got to make sure you have enough money for property taxes.
Oh my God. Well, and the tax is going to have to pay on the $5 million on the inheritance.
Hopefully, maybe no taxes. Maybe no taxes. Inheritance tax. What is it?
There's a death tax. So I think it depends. I
haven't had any relatives die with that much money.
Nor have I. So when we hit that,
haven't had to look into
it.
We'll
come back. Well, that'll be a next episode when this actually comes to fruition. Yeah. What would you do?
Yeah, similar. I think I'd put $1 million away into a DAF. And the reason that's 20%. And the reason I would do that immediately is I would think that would cover my at minimum 10% tithing in the fruitful years ahead a little bit too, so that I'm not pulling from my personal.
Yep.
And then I can strategize from a tax perspective.
Yeah.
So then I wouldn't feel guilty for a little bit in the future of maybe not taking from my personal income from charity. So I kind of strategize.
I love that.
Like
There's some control there. Yeah.
I know. And then $4 million, kids' education. And I don't even need nice cars. I don't need a mansion.
No.
But you know what? Home prices have gone up so much. Did you ever look at Zillow? I'm like, wait, the home that I need is now $5 million?
Yes.
Like, what's going on?
It's ridiculous. I know. And you're my next door neighbor. I wouldn't let you move. So.
No, I don't want to move. But we keep saying
I know. We talk about updates to our homes.
We need to refurbish a lot of things in our home.
Yes.
And things are falling apart.
I need a new roof. I know.
Well,
Brett came over and he was
your
like,
home looks beautiful right now. My home everything's falling apart. So we have to do this.
Yes.
But I just sometimes go, oh my gosh, we're spending this much money. Let's go see what's on the market. And
which
I
is
can't.
smart. And then you're like,
There's
well,
nothing.
this is depressing. I know.
Yeah. And when I say $5 million is the home
Yes.
I need, I mean, that's my dream home. But
Yes. But
I
is it?
swear it used to be like,
I know.
it used to be $2 million.
I'm
and now
telling you.
Anyway. And it's not like a 10,000 square foot home.
No, of course not.
It's like a 4,000 square foot home.
In Austin, Texas. I know. Yeah.
Okay. I do like that thought experiment. I do think that's the most fun about like, we're not big lottery purchasers.
Never.
So
I know.
Well, I grew
Should
up
I?
with like my mom buying them all the
I
time.
bet so. Yeah.
So I was like very anti buying them with the kids. But anytime it gets into that like maximum
Crazy numbers,
so
you
like
buy.
we're talking about like once every 3 to 4 years.
Yes. And where do you go? You go to a certain gas station?
No. Like it's only when it gets really, really high. And we've only done this twice with our kids ever in their lifetime. And we sit down, we go to dinner, we have the lottery ticket there.
Is so fun.
And then we talk about what we would do with it. And that's worth the whatever money we spend on it.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's kind of a precious tradition. I love that.
I mean, it's like a once every 5 years or something.
Yeah.
It's like we feel like we have the golden ticket in our hand. Let's talk about what we would do with it.
That's kind of
That's
fun. I love that.
Anyway, I'm just glad if anyone has those fun conversations with the lottery, also talk about your charitable.
Talk about
allocations.
charitable. Yes. And talk about those staffs and how you would use it to your benefit, to your point. Yeah.
And I think it'd be higher than the 10% that I have sometimes in my head, which I do think most people should try to give 10%.
Agreed.
At minimum.
Agreed.
I think getting it up to 20% feels good because this is a large amount of money and you were just given it. Like you didn't earn it.
You didn't know this cousin. I didn't know this cousin. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's right. And I love your idea of put it aside. Don't worry about the 10% every year. Like, it's there.
Think of how many years ahead that can kind of help you just like not think about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Court.
Thanks, Steph.
We'll be right back. Escape into a Cause is sponsored by Nightlight Insurance Agency. You know how a nightlight gives you comfort and peace of mind in the dark? That's exactly what Nightlight aims to do. Guide you through life's uncertainties with personalized insurance for your home, auto, business, and more. Nightlight Insurance strives to provide its clients the best coverage at the best price without sacrificing on customer service. Here's what one client had to say. Nightlight was able to lower our car insurance significantly, answered all our questions, and returned our calls promptly. Very professional, would highly recommend. So it's no surprise Nightlight has a 5-star rating on Google. Nightlight also makes this podcast possible by covering production costs so all other sponsorship dollars and gifts can go directly to nonprofits and volunteers. And as part of their mission to give back, Nightlight proudly donates $1,000 to every nonprofit we interview. If you are a sponsor interested in giving back to our podcast, please find us on social media and let us know. Nightlight is an agency focused on personalized service and giving back. See how much you could save and how good it feels to have peace of mind by visiting nightlightinsurance.com. Today I have Austin Community Foundation's Chief Impact Officer, Meagan Longley. Hi, Meagan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I want to dive right into it. What is the Austin Community Foundation and what is the role it plays in the community?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. Thanks for highlighting the work of the foundation. I love talking about the work we do at ACF. And I think what makes it especially fun is that while we've been around for nearly 50 years, in some ways, we're still the community's best kept secret. So what is the Austin Community Foundation? I think, Stephanie, at our core, the easiest way I can describe our work is as a charitable bank. And why have a charitable bank but to do really good work in the community? So with that grounding that we're a charitable bank, I'll start to kind of layer on top of that. What does that look like day to day? So we're made up of about 1,300 fund holders. And fund holders is our way, if we're going to go on the banking metaphor of saying like a account holder. So like you have an account at your bank, we call them funds at the Community Foundation. And those 1,300 fund holders, some living, some not, have decided that we are their trusted philanthropic partner to do their charitable banking.
So just real quick to back up, because there's people like me who are new to community foundations and understanding strategies and tools like donor advised funds and everything, which we'll get into. But say I want to invest my money in, and by invest, I mean donate and give that towards a charitable cause. If I want to go and give you at Austin Community Foundation being the quote unquote bank, I want to give my funds, I would be a fund holder with my funds sitting with Austin Community Foundation. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And I would actually say that word invest means a couple different things to us. Absolutely. It means investing in your community, making the charitable gifts that you might make through a personal check. But we also do literally invest those resources while they're with us so that hopefully you're making more charitable dollars on your charitable dollars. So that really, it means both things to us. So yes, at our core, we're a charitable bank, but kind of the value proposition there that we believe is that a strong community really demands philanthropic investment. And when you have a strong community, people are more motivated to make philanthropic investments. And so we think there's a virtuous cycle there, and we're happy to be the infrastructure that supports that virtuous cycle. So we invest those dollars through the public markets, and then we give it away. And sometimes that looks like giving it away in the way that our fund holders want us to. And sometimes it looks like us directing those philanthropic investments to the needs that we see in the Austin community. Because at the end of the day, why have a charitable bank? Why have a local charitable bank? It's to look outside the window and say, what are the greatest needs facing Central Texas today? And what might the greatest needs be down the road? Because really, that philanthropic infrastructure is important today, but many of our assets are endowed, which means that they'll be there forever. So people make a gift, they say, never touch this exact gift, but invest it, earn money on it, spend what you earn, but never touch that. So we'll be around forever, which is a really neat thing.
That's amazing. I should have prefaced even our introduction with, I've heard about Austin Community Foundation for now over a year, when like part of this show is me venturing in and wanting to learn more about nonprofits and how to make a difference here in Central Texas, because I found that people who knew, they knew a lot, and people who don't, they knew nothing. So wanted to really kind of match people that are the experts like yourself with people who want to learn more. And I've just heard everyone speaks so highly of Austin Community Foundation. I also saw the floods from July of last year that were awful and terrible thing that happened to our community, Kerr County, but the Hill Country Community Foundation, right? So just real quick on that, it seems like there are, just for people like who don't know, like regional banks, there are regional community foundations that do things for their community. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It's really one of the unexpected joys of working at a community foundation is that you have this peer network across the country, across the region, across this, most communities have a community foundation. And when things happen like the floods over the summer in Austin, like when COVID hit, oftentimes when there's a crisis and people don't know what to do, they call a community foundation, because our commitment to the community is to be an expert on what the needs are. And so this summer, when the tragic flooding happened, people were calling us like, what do we do? What do we do? And it is our privilege and our responsibility to say, one, are we best positioned to meet this need? And two, if so, what are we going to do about it? If not, who is? And that was a perfect example of us saying, Austin Dixon in Kerr County at the Community Foundation for the Texas Hill Country, he knows his community best. Why would we open a fund at the Community Foundation in Austin when really Austin Dixon in Kerr County is going to be in the middle of this? These are his neighbors, his friends, his local business owners that are being deeply impacted. And so we worked behind the scenes to support Austin and his team of 4. It's unbelievable what his team of 4 has accomplished. But to be in that network to say, we don't have the solution, but I bet you do. And to not be in a competitive relationship, but to be in a really supportive relationship with those folks, to support each other, to learn from each other, to beg, borrow, and steal resources is really great. And so I would say, like, for listeners who maybe aren't in Austin, check out your community foundation. If you're looking for a place to get plugged in, check out your community foundation.
I really love that, because I know that there was a lot of money that was raised and pulled together through Austin Community Foundation, and then that went to the partnerships such as the Hill Country Community Foundation. And I do love that, because I think there's so many situations where people don't know where to turn. They don't know where to put their funds. They don't know where to help. And instead of just throwing it in a random GoFundMe, or, you don't know where those funds are going, go to those trusted partners and community foundations that know where to go and have those strong partnerships and connections. So I love that. Okay, so you do serve as Chief Impact Officer. So what does that role entail, and how does it connect the mission of the foundation?
Yeah. So our mission, which I probably just blew right by that, our mission is to mobilize ideas and resources to make Central Texas a better place. And making Central Texas a better place looks really different depending on the person that you're talking to. And so in my role as a Chief Impact Officer, I have the amazing opportunity to work with this incredible team, half of whom are working directly with donors to figure out what their charitable dreams are, what a stronger Central Texas means to them. And then half of my team is working actively on defining and then acting on what the Community Foundation's idea for a stronger Central Texas looks like. And so I have the opportunity to really be at the nexus of those two things. And when you put it all together, that's how we define impact. Impact is all of those incredible charitable resources flowing out into the community to make the changes that people want to see, to support the causes they care about.
I love the title and your
It's pretty
responsibility.
great.
Yeah. That sounds great. I love it. So let's talk about impact.
Let's talk
Do you
about
have
it.
some statistics or numbers you want to share on the impact that, do y'all ever go, I guess you say Austin Community Foundation every time. Is there a short?
ACF. We go ACF. Yeah. Like if you want to get friendly with it.
Okay. Well, let's get friendly.
So I said 1,300 fund holders, and those are folks that are living, like I said, who are actively on a daily, weekly, monthly basis saying, hey, send money to my church, send money to my kids' school, send money to my alma mater, send money to whatever causes they care about. Some of those fund holders have passed away and left the Community Foundation in their will because they know we'll be around forever to make whatever charitable intent they had in their lifetimes, to have that go on long after they're gone. So 1,300 fund holders.
And what a beautiful gift to keep giving when you're gone.
I am moved every time I sit down with somebody who has that opportunity. For the folks that plan ahead and sit down with us and say, hey, I'm working on my estate plan and my kids are going to be fine. We're going to take care of them. Their kids are going to be fine. But man, the work that I did around child welfare in my lifetime was so meaningful to me, and I never want to stop doing that. And so the fact that they're thinking ahead about how to take care of a Central Texas long after they're gone, like what an amazing gift.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
We just closed the books on 2025. So I am excited to share. These are we haven't published these numbers yet. And I'm sure that our VP of Finance would slap me on the wrist if she was in the room. But we had a record year, both in terms of money that came into the foundation from donors, and then more importantly and more exciting, money that went back out. So we did about $120 million in revenue. All of that is charitable money. So people saying, I am earmarking this money for charity for today and for into the future. And then the number that I'm most excited about, nearly $100 million back out in grant making.
Wow.
Most of that staying right here in Central Texas. That's pretty
Congratulations.
cool. Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
And that goes into our community.
Goes into our community. Absolutely.
Yeah. And something that I'm learning about as I'm learning more about charity, nonprofits, is some of that 120 million might not be cash or might not be right now. They could be pledges, like commitments, as long as it's in writing. Do you have a lot of those that are pledges, or typically are people actually donating right then and there?
So for us, it's mostly right then and there. The only time that we wouldn't consider it like cash in the bank is if, for example, we can take a lot of really complex assets. So cash for sure, stock for sure, real estate for sure.
Oh, yeah. Let's get into assets real quick.
We can do some wild things.
You can put anything in a donor advised fund.
Well,
okay,
let me stop.
Yeah, tell me. I want to hear it.
So I always start with yes, Stephanie. I'm always like, let's sit down. Let's talk about it. What valuable asset do you have that you want to turn into good for your community? There are some really easy yeses, like I was saying, cash and stock. Those are really easy things. We can get more complicated. We can take closely held business interests. We can take oil and gas. There's like a charitable giving guru out in the world that's like, start with yes always, except for these three things. If it eats, if it can drive, and if it's a cemetery plot. He's like hard no on all those three things. The rest, we'll talk about it. So we're always willing to entertain a conversation. It's wild what people have.
Can you share anything that's been an interesting asset someone's tried donating?
Absolutely. If you've ever been around Town Lake, Lady Bird Lake, you've seen the paddle boat that chugs down the river. We had that for a while. Question mark. We were the owners of a 220-acre nature preserve in West Austin that could never be sold. Typically, when we take something, we want to be able to
monetize it.
Yes, we want to be able to liquidate it so that money can go do good. The conditions around the nature preserve was that it had to stay a nature preserve. We're not really in the business of being park rangers. So we passed that on to the city, which we were proud to be the steward to do that. What other interesting things? People have, unbeknownst to us, donated art like in their wills. We're not really in the business of, but we'll figure it out. We are more than willing to figure out.
Like, what is it, Storage Wars or whatever, where you find something?
Totally. Totally.
Maybe there's something super valuable. Okay, super interesting. And I know we did talk a little bit about DAFs, which are donor advised funds. And Courtney and I have talked with Piper Steggy Nelson from I Live Here, I Give Here
love
about
Piper.
DAFs. Yes. Piper's great. You can go into one of our past episodes and hear more on what is a DAF and how can you leverage that and use it as a strategic tool, especially when it comes to tax strategy planning. Of course, Austin Community Foundation has its staff. I spoke with an executive director of Level, which is a prison course nonprofit. And Alex shared with me and he showed me how cool it is that you can pay with a DAF, and you just barely scrolled and there was Austin Community Foundation.
Cool.
You can pay with your ACF DAF. So can you maybe just tell me what sets ACF apart from other DAFs?
Absolutely. Yeah. The community foundation sector invented the DAF. And it wasn't until 20, 30 years ago that larger commercial banks were like, wow, we're losing market share to these local community foundations. Maybe we should have a product. And so many large commercial banks develop their own donor advised fund products. And so we have to prove our relevancy. Why have a donor advised fund at the Austin Community Foundation when maybe the person that manages your money says, hey, let me just move this over here and it'll all be in the same portal. So it's taking an additional action to say, no, I'm making an intentional decision to work with my community foundation. We think there are lots of good reasons. What we were talking about complexity. We can take those complex assets that many of the larger national providers can't. To me, the biggest sell is that we're local, that your money stays local. I think Austin, different than many communities, really values supporting what starts here, supporting your local restaurants, going to your local music venues. And this is the charitable way to do that, to live into those local values. And what you get in return is local expertise. I have a team of folks who has their finger on the pulse of what the needs are in Central Texas and can help work with you to figure out what matching your charitable interests are with the good work being done by the nonprofits in our community are. I think those are some of our biggest selling points. I also would say you can always get somebody on the phone, whereas with some of the larger providers, you're with a chat bot or a 1-800 number. And so I just think that sort of more like concierge feel, white glove customer service is really important to us.
Yeah, I think it's so valuable. If you're really wanting to build a long-term strategic partnership and how you give back to your community, sounds like ACF is the place to be in versus Fidelity or Vanguard. I'm trying to move my son's 529 in Fidelity, and it is not easy to get one person on the phone. It is not easy to figure out who to go to. And it's taken quite a long time. So if you're someone like me I'm in my late 30s, someone I have a corporate job, I'm starting to think about, similarly to my retirement, I'm thinking about how do I leave a lasting impact after I'm gone. And yeah, I think that's great.
You know, you said, Stephanie, a couple times, trusted partner. And I love that you're saying that because that's exactly how we view ourselves, is as a trusted philanthropic partner. And that partnership can look really different depending on what brings you to the table. For those fund holders, like we've been talking about, those individuals or even businesses, we have several corporate advised funds that are like donor advised funds, except for the donor is a corporation or a business. We're the trusted partner because we're doing their banking for them. We're there to answer the phone to say, the floods happened. What do I do? Where do I send my resources? We also consider ourselves a really trusted partner to those professional advisors that are saying, hey, Stephanie, you got a huge bonus this year. You have two choices. You can pay in a higher tax bracket, or you could give it away. And so we are in partnership with those trusted professional advisors who are working directly with their clients to say, let us be that charitable solution for you. We also think about nonprofits as being our trusted partners. None of this charitable activity matters, but for the nonprofits that are out there, boots on the ground, doing the hard work every day. And I think the last group that we really think of ourselves as trusted partners for are folks that give through our collective giving programs, our Women's Fund and our Hispanic Impact Fund, which are pooled funds. So people like, I give $100, you give $20,000, but together we give away this money in a shared strategy. We're that trusted partner to say, hey, I want to be in community with like-minded donors. Let's do it together.
Yeah, because I know that to start a DAF, it's $5,000, but to, I think what you were just saying, you can give less through one of those funds.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yeah. You can support the Austin Community Foundation through a gift, just like any nonprofit. We are a nonprofit, and so our operations are charitable. So you can support the Austin Community Foundation with a smaller gift. You can open a donor advised fund for $5,000. But like I said, I'm always going to start with yes. If somebody wants to walk in the door and say, I was listening to that podcast and I'm ready. I'm ready today. I can't write you a $5,000 check, but I have a plan. Like, I want to meet that person. And then we have our women's fund and our Hispanic Impact Fund, which, like I said, are collective giving networks. And so those folks come together on an annual basis. We say that work is data driven because all of the grant making that comes out of there is based in local data, but community led. So we have community members with lived experience, with interests and values coming together to say, like, I agree with you. I believe that if you invest in women, we can alleviate poverty across this community. But I can't do it by myself. Coming together, pooling their resources, and giving it out through this data-informed grant-making strategy. And through those programs last year, we did over $1 million in grant making, which was just everybody sort of giving what they could give and having a voice in how it got distributed. And it's really cool.
It's amazing how much it adds up.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Courtney and I talked about it. I forgot I had the numbers in front of me when we were talking numbers, but I just said, just think about it. Maybe you have a Spotify or a Netflix subscription and it's not much to you. Think about how much these companies make in revenue.
Yeah.
So if you start putting that mentality towards a nonprofit or your DAF or your community foundation, those reoccurring gifts, they add up.
They add up. Absolutely.
I would love to pivot to another topic that Courtney Dickey and I just talked about right before this interview, which is the Great Wealth Transfer, the largest intergenerational transfer of assets in U.S. history coming up. And we looked up the numbers. Between 84 and 124 trillion will be transferred by 2048. Millennials are expected to inherit the most over the next 20 years. Roughly 12 trillion is supposed to go towards charitable organizations and nonprofits. That is a lot of funding.
It's staggering.
It's incredible. And we hope that those are the numbers that are going towards charitable organizations, if not even more. But it's very exciting. From your perspective, what responsibility and opportunity does that create for communities like Austin?
Yes. I'm so grateful that you re-quoted those numbers because I don't think I can hear them enough without it just sort of blowing my mind. It's like, makes me like, what is money? You know?
No,
Like,
Courtney and I, that's exactly what we said. We were like, what is that? How much? What? I don't
so
even
much
know how
money.
to, but I just hope that it means that we're going to see significant positive change when it comes to housing insecurity, food insecurity. But tell me more about what you think from your perspective.
It is a once in a, I can't even say a generation because it's the biggest ever, right? It's the opportunity is staggering, to use that word again. I can't even think of another word. And I think we can't just let it happen to us. And when I think about the opportunity ahead for us, for folks in the nonprofit sector, for the community foundation, for our community members who are facing this, is let's get ready. And I think that starts with folks who know that they're in that millennial generation that's going to inherit. I think it's like a great start to a movie plot, that's like the phone rings and, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had that rich uncle and now I'm a millionaire. Doesn't typically happen that way. Like, if you're going to inherit great wealth, you probably know it.
But I hope it does.
I mean, if you're out there, rich uncle.
Yeah.
I have some ideas.
Please check in.
Right. You know it, right? And so I think you should start early finding professional, trusted advisors who align with your values. If you hope to make more money on the money that you're going to inherit, like, find the advisor that's going to help you do that. If making your community a better place to live is part of your value set, find a professional advisor that's going to help you figure that out. And we are so lucky at the Community Foundation to work with wealth advisors, estate attorneys, tax advisors who center charitable giving in the work with their clients every day. It's just like, what's your plan for retirement? How are you going to pay for your kids to go to school? What's your commitment to the community? And just asking that in a line of questions as standard. And so I think if you're looking for a aligned, values-based professional advisor, would love to connect folks with the people in our network that we really trust. But I think we have to get ready. Like, people need a plan. So it's not just like, oh no.
Yeah.
Here we are.
And have you heard of the third generation curse?
No.
Okay, so I think that's what it's
Oh.
called.
Yeah, is this like the first one builds it, the second one grows it, the third one blows it or
Blows it.
something?
Oh, that sounds great. But yes, exactly.
Okay.
By the third generation, it's almost gone, right? And
Wow.
so I think to your point, planning and having part of that plan, what is your, short term, long term plans for those funds that not only last for the next generation, the generation after that, but think outside of your family tree and how are you going to plan for impact beyond yourself. I just think that's so critical and to not fall into that third generation curse and really be thoughtful of what
Yeah.
you're leaving.
The other thing I think about, Stephanie, is starting to pass on those values of generosity while the folks that currently have the wealth are still living. And so if your hope is that the next generation that's going to inherit will carry on your values around generosity, let's start now. You don't have to wait to die to be charitable. And so it's really fun. Some of the work that we do at the Community Foundation that I love the most is working with multiple generations at once to say, here's how we thought about giving in our lifetimes. I think often it's, oh, well, my mom and dad do that thing and we do whatever we do, but to start doing it together and so that you can pass on those values while you're alive. So then your kids or your grandkids aren't left thinking, oh, I don't know, this granddad always did it, grandma always did it, but to start acting into that generosity now.
Absolutely. So I talk about this on the show quite a bit, but what started getting me more engaged with nonprofits, one of a few things, is Young Men's Service League or YMSL with my son.
Yeah.
And so just spending time with him doing those things is, as a parent, saying, I value giving back. I value serving others and do this with me. Let's do it together. And I love what that message sends. I have run into in my lifetime a few very wealthy people that were in their 30s and 40s. And some of them were very lost that didn't have parents that sat down with them and talked to them about giving back and charity. Maybe they went to a gala, but they never talked about giving back and they never talked about serving and did it together. So I really do for anyone, maybe you don't have a huge inheritance to give, but maybe it's just something you start thinking about, even as someone is thinking about building something and your children are even young, start planting that seed today.
Absolutely.
I think it's so meaningful.
I do the girl version of the
NCL.
Yes. And what I realized was that, like, I work in nonprofit. All of the volunteerism that I had done was sort of boardroomy. And so all the volunteering that my kids saw me do was going to a meeting. And in fact, my daughter, when she was in preschool, brought home this picture one day of the family. And I said, oh, well, tell me about it. And she said, well, here's daddy, here's me, here's Peter, here's the dog. And I was like, where's mommy? And she goes, at a meeting.
Oh, no.
It's just like hilarious and true.
Making an impact, being the chief impact officer.
And so that, like, hands-on, let's go do something together that to connect that in a young person's mind. Yes, the thing that is happening in the boardroom is important volunteerism, but to connect that hands-on service. I also think, I don't know if you know this stuff, but Austin's one of the most economically segregated cities in the United States.
Austin is.
And so when we go about our daily lives, it's really easy if you're living in a higher income area, if your kids go to a more affluent school, if they play sports at a more affluent soccer, softball, whatever club, to not know about poverty, to not know about the immense needs that people right here in our own community face. And so I love that you and your son do that and break out of our little bubbles that we live in to see what life in Austin is really like for everyone.
Yeah, Courtney and I talk about it, about, being a good neighbor, but trying to extend what is a neighbor. And I think ACF is a great place to go to be like, I want to help my neighbors. And that extends to the greater Austin area.
For sure. And I think, you said, like, you don't have to have great wealth. And I think the word philanthropy conjures great wealth. Like, you think about the Rockefellers, or even here in Austin, the Dells, the Moody's, the Butlers, and so grateful for the modeling that those folks do to show what it means to make large gestures of generosity and charity. But it doesn't have to look like that. Your sustaining gift to your public radio station is philanthropy. The, money that you put in the tray that passes around church is philanthropy. And so I think for folks thinking like, I don't see myself there. How could I ever engage with the community foundation? It doesn't have to be capital P philanthropy from inherited wealth that will last generations. Like, it doesn't have to be that grand.
I think we should start a trend, Megan. I think we should start referring to ourselves as philanthropists.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You are.
Maybe you have a lot more money than me. I don't think I have anywhere near the Dells. Very, very, very.
I am also don't hang with the Dells. Yeah.
Yeah, so I shouldn't jump into any assumptions, but yeah, philanthropist.
Absolutely.
Well, Katie Lofts, would you mind sharing with us?
Sure. So I mentioned that like the Community Foundation defines impact in a really big way. So $100 million last year in grant making, that's all impact. There's a piece of that we've carved out to say, what are the greatest needs in our community? And where is the Austin Community Foundation uniquely positioned to address those needs? And so we have centered two things: economic mobility. Our Women's Fund and our Hispanic Impact Fund are responding to that need around economic mobility. And then the other one is housing affordability. And I think you can't go to any cocktail party or happy hour without hearing somebody talk about, oh my gosh, did you see that house on the corner is going for X? Like, housing affordability touches all the income spectrums, but imagine living on a low income and trying to live in Austin.
I cannot. I mean, my siblings both have full-time jobs in Austin. They're in their 30s and 40s, and they do not own a home. And I was fortunate enough to purchase a home before the bubble,
right.
But like before it really,
right.
Basically everything almost doubled. I felt like almost overnight. And I don't know how they're going to be able to afford a home at this point.
Right.
And they're doing well. To your point, it's impacting everyone. And of course, it's impacting a certain segment significantly.
And so we looked at that and we said, what can we do? And so back to the beginning of our conversation, thinking about the Community Foundation as a charitable bank, we are a charitable bank. And so we started thinking, like, how can we make loans for good? Like you would think about going to a bank for a loan. And one thing that we heard from affordable housing developers here in Central Texas was that there's a lot of public subsidy in the market. Like hopefully many of your listeners voted for affordable housing bonds several years ago on the general election for the city. There's state money, there's national money, but it moves at the pace of government. Right? Like you can know you're getting it, but insert trope about government moving slow. They said, we just need money to move faster. And so a couple of years ago, we started or launched a fund called the Housing Accelerator Loan Fund. And the purpose of that fund was to be a revolving loan fund. So we do expect it back. It's different than a charitable gift that you give and don't get back. So they are loans. But what developers said was like, if I could get a cheap loan, I could acquire a lot that might otherwise be sold to a commercial developer to put in a high rise, but instead we could preserve that land for affordable housing. And so Katie Lofts, that you mentioned, was one of our first projects that we worked with. It's a developer named Sally Gaskin, and she came to us and said, I'm on my third contract extension on this piece of land that's just west of 35, kind of across from Fiesta Mart. Like in the 30th, 31st Street area on the west side. And I want to put in 100 units of permanent supportive housing. Have you heard of permanent supportive housing?
I have not.
Yeah. So permanent supportive housing is an evidence-based way to move people from chronic homelessness to stability. So basically it's like get folks housed and then wrap them around with all the services that they need. Mental health support, addiction support, job skills, benefits enrollment, but get them housed, get them off the streets, get them sheltered. And so we were able to make Sally a loan, a $2.9 million loan. She acquired the land so that it didn't get sold to a market rate developer. And when all of her government money came back in, she was able to pay us back at 2% interest. And so we get to keep the fund going. Well, she came back to us 6 months later and said, and anybody that's like paying attention to financial markets know, like the interest rates were skyrocketing at the point in time when she was developing. And she said, the project doesn't pencil out anymore. And so we came back with another low cost loan to help her bridge some construction costs so that she could keep the property affordable. There's so many different factors that are going to kind of blow in the faces of affordable housing developers. And so our goal is to help make it go faster so we have more units on the ground and help it be cheaper. So that's just one example. We have done through the Housing Accelerator everything from that kind of permanent supportive housing, getting folks off the streets, all the way to homeownership through Habitat for Humanity. So everything in between. So just a really cool, like niche-y thing that we do.
I think that's so cool. So Katie Lofts has 100, was it 100 units?
100 units.
That's amazing.
So that's 100 people that don't live on the street anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible. And I mean, the value was the partnership, but also acting as a bank.
Right. It's this really wonky thing that makes a difference. And because it's a revolving loan fund, we get to do it again and again and again and again. And I think at this point, the fund's been operating for 2 years, and we've supported the development of over 1,200 units of affordable housing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, I'm going to switch gears to a good brag. This is something that has nothing to do with ACF. It has to do with you, Meagan. What is something that you're proud of that you've done recently? And it can be anything from helping another nonprofit, a small act of kindness, showing up every day for someone. Is there something that you can share?
The first thing I'll share is this was such a hard question. I've been chewing on it for a week now. And I think part of that is the good things that we do almost feel like you're not supposed to,
You're not supposed to talk about it.
I'm supposed to be humble about this. And so truly my heart rate just went up. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, okay, I'll make a joke about how I'm really good at loading the dishwasher, which I am. But I love the question, and I love your encouragement to talk about it and to brag about it and to model for other people to make time for the good stuff. And I think what I landed on was to talk a little bit about my board service for the Austin Ed Fund, which is, imagine it like the PTA for the Austin Independent School District. And so not every campus has the benefit of having affluent families. And so the Ed Fund raises money to do the beyond public dollar things that our campuses and our students and our teachers really deserve. And so I get to sit on their grants committee, and teachers every year request money from the Austin Ed Fund to do the projects in their classrooms that they would be doing out of their own pocket. And it's just a joy to go into those classrooms and see really basic things, Stephanie, that would blow your mind. People didn't have updated maps with updated country lines drawn, all the way to folks that are dreaming big, taking their kids to NASA to see what an aerospace program looks like. That's one of my favorite things that I do when I'm not at work, is support our incredible school district, because we need strong schools to have a strong community.
That is such a good brag. And I know that you don't want to talk about it. That's why it's so uncomfortable. Hopefully, as people hear that and they say, oh, wow, this person that works a full-time job, has children, and they go and they can do this as well, maybe I can find time, right? And so I hope people hear this. They can find time even when they're busy, and they're inspired, which what you just shared is very inspiring and incredible. And I look around, even at our schools, I don't volunteer as much as I did when the kids were in elementary, but every day in the middle school and the high school, there are, and a lot of moms especially, a lot of people are giving their time. They're not being recognized. They don't talk about it. And I think people can share more about this. You go to a dinner and people ask, what do you do for a living? What do you do with your time?
Right. Oh my gosh, that's such a better question.
Yeah.
Such a better question. Yeah.
I think that's a good brag. And I do want listeners to earn chance to also have some good brags and how they can show up for ACF. Can you share some ways that they can show up for you guys?
Absolutely. We actually have a great volunteer opportunity open right now. We are community philanthropy. So there is no one benefactor that's saying give the money here or do this good work for me. And so we really rely on the community to make our decisions. We know that people that live here know what the community needs. So we have 2 volunteer opportunities. One is to review scholarship applications. We'll do about $600,000 in scholarships this year. And the other is to review grant applications. So if you have a little bit of desk time and an internet connection and are passionate about our community or education, we would love to have people plug in that way and help us make decisions about these community resources.
What a great opportunity. And you can do that from home.
You can do it from home. You can do it at work. I don't know what your boss is paying attention to, but yes, you can do it at home. You don't have to show up anywhere. There's no committee meetings. It's and I think what it does, especially if you don't work in the nonprofit sector, you haven't yet figured out where to plug in the nonprofit world, it is like good feels. You'll learn a lot about the needs in our community, but at the very same time, learn about the nonprofits that are stepping up to meet those needs. So it's never oh my gosh, that was a bummer. I learned about all this need in my community. It's both of those things at the same time, the need and the solution.
Yeah, what a good introduction. Courtney and I on a different episode we're looking at the formal volunteer statistics and how do we get more formal volunteerism up? Because it really took a nosedive, of course, around COVID. Sure. But what was so shocking was the percentage of people who only volunteered online remotely. I think it was something like 15%, 16% that had done 100% of their volunteering
Interesting.
from home. So if you're an introvert, if you want to stay home, this is a great opportunity for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I hadn't ever thought to like slice and dice the numbers that way, but that's fascinating.
Yeah, I found it to be really high. To say I've only showed up from home, I found interesting.
I think it like points to like everyone has a different motivation for giving, right?
Right.
Like some people want to see their name on a building, or they want to be seen at the gala, or they had an experience as a foster child, and so they want to give back. So I think everybody has their reasons for giving. And the same is true for volunteering. Some people want to be in community. I want to go volunteer with people that are like me or that care about the things I do. And some people are like, I just need to know that I'm doing it. And it's a more private endeavor.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Okay, so volunteer and then also, of course, give. So how can people
Oh my
show
gosh,
up?
my
Yes.
development team is like, hello. Yes, absolutely. Like it's philanthropy, right? And even though we're saying everybody can be a philanthropist, which I love that we're going to adopt that, absolutely none of it happens if people aren't giving. You can open a donor advised fund, and just to demystify that one more time, it doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to wait for the inheritance. We have folks that say, like, I got a bigger bonus than I expected this year, and I'm really lucky not to need all of that to make ends meet. And so I'm going to start. I'm going to start now. Or maybe I got a huge bonus and I know that's not going to happen every year. And so I'm going to squirrel that away in my donor advised fund so I can make gifts every single year in a predictable way and not wait for the highs and lows of my bonus cycle. So get started on your donor advised fund. If you're like, I don't need that thing. Giving to our women's fund, our Hispanic Impact Fund is a great way to plug into a community that shares a belief around economic mobility and living in an increasingly unaffordable Austin. This is a place where you can plug in and make a difference on that.
A great opportunity for anyone listening that they say, I want to maybe take that first step. Do they just reach out on your website? Do they just contact you guys and say, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm going? There's no commitment. Just start having those conversations.
Here to help at austincf.org.
Yeah.
And we really are. We're here to help. Another fun thing coming up is our annual party. It's called Austin in Common. And somebody the other day described it as like AT Explained. For any public radio nerds out there, is a segment that KUT does, but it's like ATX Explained for the nonprofit sector. But 750 community-minded people that gather at ACL downtown, ACL Live. It's storytelling, it's good food, it's good music, and a place to feel hopeful about the world. To gather with people who all care a whole lot about our community. We come from different walks of life. We work in different sectors. We maybe even care about different pieces of this community, but all together we have Austin in common, and it's a great, fun way to feel plugged into your community. So that's coming up on April 14th.
Okay. And we need some hope right now.
We need some hope right now.
It's wild out there. To have that sense of community is everything. If you're not giving today and you want to start learning more, show up April 14th at ACL Live Moody Theater for Austin in Common. Sounds like a great event.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Great. Okay, well, Meagan, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
It was fun. Thank you for having me. And I hope to continue the conversation. And like I said, if there are listeners that are looking to be plugged in, can't wait to have that conversation with them too.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be in touch about possibly going to Austin in Common. I think I'm going to try to make it.
I think you're going to be there.
I think I will. Well, it's the day before my birthday.
Tax day.
I'm a tax baby. That's
okay.
right.
Okay.
That's
well,
right.
we'll throw you a big party.
Perfect. It'll be a party for me?
750 people. All your closest friends.
No, that would be lovely. It would be so much fun. All right. Well, thank you, Meagan.
Thanks, Stephanie.
All right, friends. By the end of this episode, you should have heard one thing loud and clear. If you give back, you are a philanthropist. Yes, you. If you volunteer, you're a philanthropist. If you donate, you're a philanthropist. If you connect people to nonprofits, you show up to events, you advocate, you organize, you serve, or you use your network to move a cause forward, you are doing philanthropy. Because what is philanthropy other than a lover of humanity? So call it what it is and talk about the good that you're doing with your time or your resources. Share it with someone, give people ideas that they can copy, spread the good, because we know it's not bragging if it's good. Move over Melinda Gates and Michael Dell. Meagan and I are also doing it. Before you go, quick reminder, show up to Austin in Common. And if you care about Austin and want a simple way to plug in, this is it. Go buy your tickets. And if you don't show up there, at least reach out to ACF, determine whether it is time for you to open up a charitable bank account. Thank you again to Meagan Longley and Austin Community Foundation. And as always, thank you to Nightlight Insurance for supporting the show and your donation to ACF. Thank you to Todd Thompson for editing and mixing. Thank you to Graham Thompson and Jane Dyer for the music. And thank you, Ashlyn O'Neill, for content management. Come hang out with us on Instagram and Facebook at Escape Into a Cause and use #GoodBrag so that we can see what you're doing. We will see you next time.